All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Lens. My name is Hector Silva. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Cheresse Thornhill, who has been in the footwear industry over 13 years. Her career began in Beaverton, Oregon at Nike, where she was a footwear designer for 10 years before moving back to her hometown of Miami, Florida, to teach design at both the high school and college levels. She launched No Shoes Creative, a design consultancy, in 2016 and designed footwear for Champion upon the relaunch of the brand. In January 2020, she made the move to Brooklyn, New York to lead the adidas S.E.E.D program as the design director. Cheresse is part of the team that's transforming the footwear industry and cultivating the next generation of diverse design talent. Cheresse, thank you so much for being part of Lens.
Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. Thank you so much for those who are tuning in. We're very excited for you to be here. If you have any questions, we do have a Q&A. Please ask your questions in the Q&A so that during the Q&A section or during the Q&A part of this webinar, I'll do my best to integrate it in our conversation with Cheresse. With that being said, I'm going to give the floor over to you, so you can take it from here.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me. I was thinking about what I would speak about on this platform, and I really kept thinking about what I learned over the past year and what the pandemic has taught me. And it's taught me that I don't have the time that I thought that I had. And it really brought to light for me all of the things I've been really passionate about over my career and how that's really transitioned me into the space I'm in now. So what I really want to talk about today, and I'm going to share my screen here, is purpose and passion. And I'm going to put this in play mode. All right. Hector, is the screen good?
You're good to go.
Perfect. So again, thank you for having me. I really am passionate about passion projects. And I think it's something that is really kind of thrown around. I don't know if there's been a lot of focus on it, but like I said before, I think that the pandemic really taught me that I really needed to dive into my passion, and I wanted to really share my journey with everyone on the call and encourage people to really find the passion in your life and make it a project, because there is something that we're all supposed to do in this world, and there are gifts and talents that we need to grow and really kind of push out into the world and make the world a better place. So my title for today is Mind Your Passion Project: Seeds for a Purposeful Future by Design. And I love starting off with quotes. This is a really great one from Oprah Winfrey. Passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you. And, in light of Mother's Day, and I really wanted to think about passion and all the passion I've gained from my family, I wanted to share the definition of passion. So it's a strong and barely controllable emotion. It's a state of outburst, an outburst of strong emotion. It's intense sexual love. It's an intense desire or enthusiasm for something. And it's something that arouses your enthusiasm. It's that thing that sets your heart on fire. So I encourage everyone, as we're going through this talk today, to really think about where your own passions lie. What's the thing that really sets your heart on fire? And for me, celebrating Mother's Day was really a time for me to reflect on my family of origin. So if you look at this picture here, this is really 4 generations of enlightenment, right? So on the far left, you have my great grandmother, who I had the great fortune of growing up with and learning from in my lifetime. I had 15 years of living with her and learning from her. And she moved our family from Trinidad in the 70s to here to Brooklyn, New York. And next to her on the right in the purple dress is my grandmother, who, again, I learned so much from. She was very creative and really passed along a lot of that to me. Next to her is my mother, who served in the US Navy. Again, she made a lot of sacrifices for me, and I learned so much from her. And then next to her, it's myself. So it's really funny to hear her talk about this image where we're at a wedding and she wanted me to stand in line in the same position, as her and my grandmother and my great grandmother. And she kept saying that I never wanted to stand still. I wanted to kind of break the line and express myself. So it's really a fun picture to share. But the seeds that I gained from my foundation and from those three women is really generosity, a strong sense of community and collaboration, problem solving skills, mentoring, hard work and determination, as well as an artistic prowess and creativity. So I just encourage everyone to kind of think back into, you know, your own family and what were those things, what were those seeds that really you can glean from your upbringing that really is impacting you and can really kind of push you into your future. And here, you know, again, as I was thinking about what I would speak about today, I started to look at my path in this industry and look at my vocation and then my passions as two different silos or two different phases. And I can look and I can think back about wanting to be a footwear designer and having that artistic background and loving sports and really pouring myself into my design education. But at the same time, there was always this desire to help other people define and really learn about their own passions and how to get to that next level in their life. So if you look at this and if you think about your own life, think about it in two phases. Your vocation, which is your day job. What is the thing that you're working hard at every day? And then think about those other things in your life, which could be passions. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's writing, but it's not necessarily something that's directly impacting your day job. And for me, I can look back and I can see that there were those seeds there all the time. And I'll go further into what those things were as I journey throughout my career. But there are seeds of inspiration and passion that exist in all of our lives. And I think that moment of enlightenment and alignment for me is when my day job and my passions really converge. And I'll speak about what that is exactly and what I'm doing now. So this is just basically a timeline. So I started off my career at Nike in 2007. And actually before that in 2006, I started off as a design intern with Nike SB, and Nike was my place. You know, it's where I wanted to be. Growing up, I had swooshes drawn all over my notebooks, like many of you have, of other brands that you've been really passionate about. But I knew from early on that I wanted to be a footwear designer, and I was going to work very hard to attain that. And I had the great fortune of being able to start my career off there. So on the top line, you can see some of the products. It's just a fraction of the projects that I've done and the products that I've designed while starting off my career at Nike. But the part I really want everyone to focus on is what's below the line. So these are my passion projects. There was always a point within my career all the time where I had these other projects going on. So my mentor, Dwayne Edwards, started off Future Soul, which would be then the impetus for his school, Pencil. But Future Soul was a program, again, where he wanted to really create a pathway for other aspiring designers to get into the industry. And this was a competition. And I was a mentor to one of the finalists, Josh Mann, and you can see his shoe, his S.E.E.D shoe that he worked on, design at the lower left. And then as I kind of go throughout the timeline here, we can go to 2010 and we can see where Dwayne launched Pencil. And I was, you know, I had a great fortune again of being a design mentor and a professor at his school. And then moving on into 2010, starting to design footwear for Nike basketball. But again, as I was transitioning through each one of those projects, my mind was still focused on how can I mentor, how can I help other people make someone else's life better, and really be a mentor for them, like a lot of people were for me. So in 2010, I started off as part of the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. I had a little sister, Lamrot, so you can see her in the pictures. We had a lot of great fun together. We went fishing. We've done so many other excursions together, and it was great to just watch her grow. And transitioning on from that, within Nike, we had different collectives within the brand and focused around design. And I was part of the academic outreach team. And this was really fun. We went into local high schools and art schools in the community. We actually started a BRS camp, so Blue Ribbon Sports Design Camp. And that was a great summer. We taught kids, you know, about the design process, how to research, how to glean inspiration to then design their own backpack. So again, as I was growing my career as a footwear designer, there was still this seed pulling me to really educate and mentor throughout that time as well. Moving into 2004, I transitioned into a footwear design lead for Nike Emerging Markets. So again, you can see the products that I worked on above. I learned a lot, traveled all over the world, worked on cricket footwear. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I kept thinking about how can I help other people? How can I educate other people? And at the time, there was this really cool project. Many of you may have heard about it. It was called XQ, the Super School Project, which was basically a challenge to the nation to reimagine the public school system. You know, it hasn't changed in 50 years, and it's been consistent. So how could we create a new school that really is servicing kids today, and really to help them learn more about themselves, help them, be upskilled in certain areas. And so, again, I align myself with a group of really amazing individuals you can see there in the picture, and we ideated on what this new school concept could be. Transitioning out of that and still designing footwear, I really wanted to learn more about education, learn more about how to teach, and I decided to go back to school. And I worked on my master's of science in instructional design and technology. It was a field that I never really heard about, but I thought it was really interesting. How do people learn, and all the different learners that exist in the world, and how could we use gamification and other methods to help incentivize people to learn? So that was something that I worked on at that time. I had no idea where another degree would take me because I was still a footwear designer at the time, but I just thought about, hey, I'm really inspired and passionate about this. I just want to learn more about it. And little did I know I would actually be able to use those skills in my current job now, 5 to 6 years later in the future. So in 2016, I resigned from Nike. I got to a point in my career where I felt like I'd done all that I wanted to do as a footwear designer. And I really wanted to pull and pour myself into teaching. And I resigned and I moved back home to South Florida. And at that time, I had an opportunity to start my own design consultancy, so No Shoes Creative, as well as teaching at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, where I had an opportunity to develop a manufacturing for design course, which I focused around footwear design, and really taught the students at that school how to design footwear, what that process was like, and how to create their own shoes. So below, you can see some of the projects that I created within the course, as well as teaching orthographic projections. It was really fun just kind of diving back into my industrial design degree and working on illustrating with markers and pencils again. So that was just really fun. It just scratched the surface of my identity as an educator. And at the same time, I was able to continue to design because it's still something that I love to do, and I had an opportunity to work with Champion on the relaunch of their brand with BBC International. And so those were some of the things that I was doing at that time. But this is where I feel like my life really started to shift, and there was more of that convergence of both of the things I love to do, my passions in teaching and then also designing products. And so moving into 2018, still designing for Champion, but also teaching at my old high school. So Design Architecture Senior High, again, was a school that I had the pleasure of attending in South Florida and learning about product design at an early age. And I wanted to go back there and again, teach and mentor, those young designers as they're transitioning into the next stage of their lives. And this is at the point where my mind and my career and everything just started to converge. And in 2020, Dwayne reached out to me along with Mark Delche and Liz Conley and Jessica Smith, some of my other partners I work with now. And they talked about wanting to start a school within the brand of Adidas. And for me, I had no real intentions of coming back into a large brand like this. I was at a point in my career and in my life where, I checked off all those boxes. We have boxes in our lives that we want to check off. And for me, it was being closer to my family, being back in South Florida, teaching and designing. So what else could I have wanted at the time? But when the S.E.E.D program came along, which is School for Experiential Education and Design, when that opportunity came along, I realized that everything I'd been working towards in my career, it was all laddering up to this opportunity. And I'll talk more about S.E.E.D, but it really is the culmination of my entire design career, as well as everything I've been working up to as a educator in design. And I love this quote by Steve Jobs: the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And for me, loving what I do is what makes life more meaningful and purposeful. And so here in 2020 is when I found alignment, where my passion and my vocation, my competency and my mastery in product design really converged. And that was here with S.E.E.D. So School for Experiential Education and Design. It's really a program, it's a 2-year design program for women from diverse backgrounds. So we all know that in footwear design, there's not a lot of women in the industry, and much less women of color. And so this program really focuses on that and creating another alternative pathway into our industry for people who have been overlooked and who haven't, had the opportunities to attend a traditional design high school. And so this program now, we're breaking barriers and we're changing lives and we're transforming the way that our industry looks, feels, and operates. And this is really, for me, the manifestation of my purpose. It's the convergence. And I really feel like when we unlock passion in one area of our life, it really opens the door for passion to really kind of come in other areas. So in 2020, I just moved to Brooklyn, had no plans to ever leave South Florida, leave Miami. And I found myself in Brooklyn, New York, really, at the start of the pandemic, and Brooklyn was the epicenter. And really questioning myself at that point. I knew that this was an amazing program, but I didn't know where my life was going personally. And I'd say 7 months later, I found that I unlocked passion in one area of my life and it unlocked it in another area. And I met my fiance, who met an amazing person who's now my fiance. But I can say that because, I think it's, again, submitting ourselves to passion. I submitted myself to passion and it brought it into the rest of my life. So I just wanted to share that because I believe that there are a lot of things that, we maybe have in our lives that we've been putting off, things that we're really passionate about that we don't know what's on the other side of that passion. And we should really harness it and leverage it and see where our life will go from there. So now I just want to jump into to passion projects, right? And what is it? And a passion project is something that gives you satisfaction, happiness, and puts you into a state of flow. It's your tiny or huge contribution to the world. And according to blogger Crail Finch, passion projects are at their core creative side projects, inspired by deeper meaning. It's your passion, it's your mission, it's your desire for a better way, and ideally, they have real world results. So as we go through the rest of this, I'll just challenge you to really think about what sets your heart on fire, because there's a seed there that can help you identify what your purpose is. And then passion projects. So why do we need it, right? To increase our own happiness, to positively impact the world, to create more meaning in life, to learn new skills, to leverage underutilized skills and abilities, which all of us probably have in our day jobs, and building community and support systems, creating new business opportunities, and changing lives for the better. So another great quote from Mark Twain: the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. So just a disclaimer here, I love books, lots of them. You can see that there's so many behind me. So I will have book recommendations throughout the rest of this presentation. But when we talk about how to identify your passion or your passion project, I talk about mining, and it's really mining your life. What are those things in your life that you can leverage to help point you in the right direction? And Strengths Finders, many of you have probably heard of this assessment, but it's great. I've done it twice in my career with a 3-year span, and it shifted both times, but the one thing that remained was learner. And again, that was something that really gave me insight into what's the thing that gives me energy, and it's learning something new so that I can then pass that on. And then another great book is Purpose Awakening by Tory. It's more of a spiritual book, but it really helps you to see that, your life isn't an accident. It's absolutely purposeful, and there's something that you're meant to do in the earth, and something that you're meant to pass on to someone else. So here I then challenge you to ask yourself these questions. So when I was a kid, what did I love to do in my free time? What did I love to do after school? What was the thing that you couldn't wait to rush home to do after school? And what keeps you up at night? What is the thing that maybe is so bothersome to you in the world, or in your own family, that you really want to bring about change? There are seeds there. There are little things in those questions that can help point you in the right direction. And the only way to do great work is, again, to love what you do. So here, how do you qualify a passion project, right? How do you identify if it's the right thing for you to be pursuing? And again, I would say, what is a world issue that bothers me so much that I'm willing to take action to bring about positive change? Again, there's a seed in there, and that's an indication that it's probably something you should pursue. So now we go to how do we develop it? How do you incubate your passion project? And it's all about development. So how do you build competency and mastery in your passion? And how do you build community? Another one of my favorite quotes, it ties back to what I mentioned around learning. Man's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. A lot of times we feel, if there's a particular passion that we have, like for me, it was footwear design. So all I wanted to do was embed myself into footwear design and read every book on footwear design. But there are other skills and other areas that can absolutely influence your passion if you learn about them. And I love just learning about random facts, learning about how to be a personal trainer or how to start a restaurant. There are really interesting correlations between other fields that you can really bring back into the one that you're focusing on. So I just encourage everyone to be curious and to make learning really a way of life. So next, I'm talking about a bit more about competency and mastery. So think about what books, what courses, what resources could really help you develop, in your area of passion. And another book I'd love to recommend is Mastery by Robert Greene. It's a great book that talks about really investing yourself and gaining a level of mastery in the skill that you're really passionate about. He talks about 30,000 hours of practice, and that then leading to becoming a master in that field. He also talks a lot about other people throughout history and how they gained a level of mastery. So another great book. Now community. So again, like who are your compatriots? Who are the people that are around you that are really passionate about the things that you're passionate about? What collectives or organizations exist that can really help you develop in your passion area? Again, there are seeds there. There's so much you can gain out of community and collaboration to really push your ideas forward. And next, how do you get your passion project off the ground? How do you manifest it? And for me, the things that really help me manifest my passions are really around mentorship, collaboration, and then goal setting. It's the thing that's really going to help you get to that next level. And another great quote by Isaac Newton. So if I've seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Again, you don't know what you don't know. And mentorship is so important, being able to learn from other people who have already walked that path. There's so much that you can gain, and it can really save you a lot of mistakes along the way. So for me, mentorship was huge. I had, many great mentors, and two that I just want to highlight here. Gina Warren, she's a former Nike VP of Diversity and Inclusion. And she would always say, take your seat at the table. It's something that I think we hear a lot more now, but it's something that is literal and also figurative. For me, I just remember going into meetings at Nike, and there would be the main table where everyone's going to sit, and then there are chairs along the side, and I would watch some of my coworkers, many of them women, walking into the room and sitting at the window and not necessarily sitting at the main table. And for me, when she said that, it was just something that kept triggering in my head to take my seat at the table. I have a position. position, I have a voice and a platform, and it's important for us to assume that seat and is to assume our positions, whether it's in a physical space or whether it's in a digital space. And so important, we have something to give, and someone actually needs what we have to give. So it's important to assume your position. And then the great Dwayne Edwards, he always used to say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And that really gave me the courage and the fortitude to raise my hand when something wasn't right or something was wrong. You know, he was great about creating opportunities for other people. And I can always just kind of look back into my career when things weren't quite right. Dwayne just always encouraged me and was able to help me navigate out of certain situations. So again, I would say, ask yourself, you know, who's in your life right now that you can learn from, who's leading in the space that you're passionate about that you can learn from, because again, there will be seeds in that relationship, that mentoring relationship that can push you forward into your purpose. And next, I'll talk a little bit again about collaboration. So here I have a photo of amazing individuals that I collaborate on our S.E.E.D program right now. And I would challenge everyone to think about who are the people that are just as passionate about what you're passionate about, because that energy, you can feed off of each other and learn from each other to bring about change in an industry and also in the world. And last but not least, goal settings, right? And we always hear about this, but I don't know if we actually know how to go about it. And there's a great book here, Change by Design, by Tim Brown, where he talks about design and how design, you know, has maybe shifted, you know, and it became just inanimate objects, and we didn't really think about how can we affect the whole system and not just the product. So I would encourage everyone to dive into that book. And as you're thinking about your passion and the thing that you want to focus on, think about the whole entire system from start to end, not just the actual object. And in terms of setting goals, make them specific, make them measurable, make them achievable, make them realistic and timely. So think about what that end result is, and then how can you back into your first starting point and make them things that are really easy that you can affect, and then think about who you need to partner with to bring those goals to life. So again, I have, you know, again, questions that I would like for everyone to just ask themselves again, right? So what sets your heart on fire? When you were a kid, what did you love to do in your free time? What did you love to do after school? What were the things that kept you up at night? And what are still the things that keep you up at night? What are those world issues that bother you so much that you want to bring about positive change and take action in? What are the books, the courses, the resources that can help you develop in your passion area? What collectives or organizations already exist that you can partner with and also learn from and work with? Who's leading in this space that you're passionate about that you can learn from? And then also, who can you collaborate with? So again, collaboration is such a huge thing because we can't do anything by ourselves, and we're all a network and connected to each other, so we can leverage each other's passion there. And so this is just a diagram that I would love for everyone to just kind of think a little bit about. Think about your vocation, your day job. What skills and competencies are you growing and growing in and getting to a level of mastery in? There are things that you can highlight and pull out of what you do in your day job. And then your passion projects. So thinking about what are the things that you're passionate about that maybe you think, man, if I had more time, I would love to dive deeper into this, right? And how can you link those two things together? Because that's where you'll find alignment. And then that's where you'll be able to transition into your purpose and the thing that you were meant to do on this earth. So last but not least, my book recommendations again, which I would encourage everyone to dive deeper into these. And then again, you know, I'd say this, you know, that I said at the beginning of the call, COVID and the pandemic really taught me that we don't have the time that we thought we had, right? So I encourage everyone to find your passion, make it a project, scale it, launch it into the world. We really need your passion projects. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. That was amazing and an awesome way to start a Monday for sure.
Thank you.
So for those who are, a part of this webinar, feel free to ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A section, but I can get things started. You talk a lot about passion and purpose. And I feel that's something that I can relate to because I feel that drives, that's the reason why I get up every morning to do what I do.
Okay.
Um, and I almost feel like once you find this passion and this purpose, I feel like that's when you have arrived, when you really
Exactly.
feel like I know what I got to do and I know how to achieve it. And nothing can stand in your way.
Exactly.
But that being said, are there any obstacles that do come in your way that you have to overcome?
For sure. I'd say burnout, right? And I think that's something that many of us have probably experienced, especially if we're workaholics, with many creatives are, because we're inherently passionate about creativity and there's this drive to just keep going. But I think that managing that burnout is important. And I think that's where our family members come in. I really try to, carve out that time to spend with my family and carve out the time to do other things that I'm really excited about, because that then fuels the passion, that then gives you new ideas. That balance is so important. So I'd say, yeah, burnout. And then, naysayers, people who, maybe don't feel like you can make a career out of art. I think too, it's again, just being passionate and having that drive within yourself to then teach, the naysayers that, hey, you can have a career in art, and it can be very successful, and you can leverage design to change the world as well.
Absolutely. Um, we have a couple of questions that are coming in here. One of the questions is from Alexandra, and her question is, any advice or direction for a woman who wants to get into the sneaker industry, specifically in storytelling and branding?
Yeah, gosh, so much to say about that. Mentorship. So LinkedIn is an amazing platform. I would say, find the people who are doing what you want to do in your career, and then tap into those people. Many of us are open to sharing and teaching. So for myself, so definitely tap into that. And then also discover what makes you unique. Because I think that our industry right now, there are trends, right? There are trends in different industries and that are driving the industry. But I would say find your uniqueness. What is the unique perspective that you can bring to the industry? And then make sure you evangelize that and share it. For me, I'm still in footwear design, but I have a passion for education, and everyone knew it. So when the S.E.E.D program came along, I'd already established my brand in education and design. And so it made me the best person for the opportunity. So I say evangelize, your uniqueness and what makes you special, and then make sure that people know that's what you're about. That's what you want to bring to the industry as well.
Fantastic answer. Here's another question, and this is from Chris. He said that was wonderful. How do you go about telling stories about those passion projects? Are there any techniques you use to communicate your excitement for a project?
Yeah, authenticity. I think that people are smarter than maybe we think, right? You don't want to contrive at anything that's fake. You want it to come from a very true, authentic space and place within your own story. So find the things that are unique to you. When did you discover this particular passion? Is it something that you had as a kid? And tell that story. Show pictures from your childhood. I think that you want to make it as authentic to you as possible so that it's real, because I think people identify with something that's real, that's from your own life. So you want to be able to make that connection. So I say authenticity would be the way to really tell those stories. Yeah.
Here's another question from Danielle, and she was wondering, at what point do you think it's worth pursuing your passion project as your full-time job? There's so many passion projects of mine that I like to pursue full-time someday, but it's always scary to think about losing the stability I have at my full-time job.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And I would say do the research, right? Start to identify what are the needs in the world. So if you have a lot of passion projects, I think there are ways to qualify which one you should pursue, right? So from a business standpoint, who needs that passion, that thing that you're passionate about, right? How much are they willing to pay for it? Who in your network or who in that particular industry is doing it, and how can you collaborate and work with them, or even start to build a collective of people prior to making that jump into your full-time passion project. So I think there are ways to qualify it. There's absolutely a business aspect to it. There's a level of collaboration, and then who's already doing it, right? And how can you learn to structure, either your path or business opportunity, in alignment with what's already out and existing. So yeah, I'd say research, right? As a designer, that we're great at researching, right? And seeing what those opportunities are. So I would say make sure you're prepared before you make that jump.
Yep, absolutely. I have a question to ask you about design education.
Yeah.
As someone who's been in design education for quite some time, I would be, it's 2021. And if you look at design education from 10 years ago, the only, whenever you think of being educated, the only option you had was to invest in a traditional academia, big institution,
Right.
thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars.
You either have,
I'm
you
still
either have
paying.
money, you either have money to go or you have to borrow money.
Right.
But now it's 2021. You want to go into footwear, you go to Pencil, or you check out Adidas, the S.E.E.D program that you're doing. Or like with what we're doing with advanced design, we have a design education called Offsite. So there's a lot of these, I think a lot of students now have a lot of options. Do you
Exactly.
think that that's where design education is evolving into as we?
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of other industries are looking for other pathways outside of a traditional institution, right? I think the cost of college, much less design college, is becoming more and more unattainable for a big group of the population. So, and companies are becoming smarter too. They're understanding that, hey, we need more talent, we need diverse talent, and how can we help educate them? Right. If they're not coming through the traditional pathways and we want other designers from different backgrounds, we have to kind of dig in and help facilitate that. So I think a lot of industries, a lot of other brands are even going to start to look at education in a new way, and how can they develop their workforce of the future. So I'd say for students, before you invest, the money you have or you don't have in a traditional education, really think about, again, what am I passionate about? Because whatever you're passionate about, you're gonna be able to be motivated to complete and bring that to life by any means necessary. So I would say, like, look out, right? Research your industry. What are the educational opportunities in your industry, and who are the people that are leading those? And then consult them, right? Ask about, how do I go about this before diving into a traditional education, if it's something that you want to pursue or you can pursue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Quite a fantastic answer. Here's another question, and this is from Dinesh. And he'd like to know, how do you pivot to a passion project if no opportunity hits you up?
Yeah, it's about driving it yourself. I was fortunate enough to have the S.E.E.D opportunity, pursue me, but it was because I was already doing that work, right? And I'm a firm believer that your passions and your skills and your talents, they'll make room for you. So start to develop yourself right now, making sure that you know everything there is to know in that particular area of passion, and start already doing the work, right? Carving out an hour or two on the weekend to develop yourself in that area, and then share it. I think a lot of times as designers and creatives, we want to hold like what we do close to our heart, whether we feel like someone's going to take it or come up with the idea themselves. But there's not a lot of things that are new under the sun, right? And what you really want to do is build community and collaborate with others. So I'd say develop that particular skill and share it out with the world so people know what you're doing, because you can then work with someone else who's bringing other skills and passions to then help you get that passion off the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, with all of this that you talked about, as far as finding your passion and purpose, and essentially hustling to find that passion,
For sure.
um, it sounds like you're, organically, you're becoming an entrepreneur as well.
Exactly.
And that sounds very scary. That word scares people because it's very tied to business, and you want to make something happen. It requires other things that you're probably not familiar with or comfortable with doing, like the business aspect
Right.
of things. What are some suggestions for how to approach that? Because that is pretty scary. You got to deal with IRS and government related things if you want to start a business, or if you want to, make your passion into reality.
I would say try to make it not scary.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes we think of, and I don't, entrepreneurship and entrepreneur, that word has just been thrown out. Right.
Mm.
And it has a lot of, it just comes with a lot of connotations. So maybe think about that word and reframe it and start small too. I think whatever your passion is, like first immerse yourself in it. Like, what is there to know about it? If you want to start a food truck, right? Go to food truck festivals, as things are starting to open up again. Who's out in that market doing really unique and fun, innovative things, and then start small. Maybe you don't get a food truck initially. Maybe you have, a stand at a festival, you do it one time, and then you start thinking about how you can grow from a very small place. And that's why I talk a lot about seeds, because those are things that can start small and they grow into big, large things. So maybe don't start with this big, elaborate thing. How can you break it down to one really small seed that you can do once a month on the weekend, and then see where it grows from there.
Absolutely. When we were asked about our offsite program, which is our 12-week design education initiative, they asked us if we ever wanted to have a physical space. And when we started to plan around having a physical space, a lot of us got nervous, because when you think of design education, you immediately compare yourself to what already exists, which is traditional academia, big institutions, golden domes, golden roofs, like really, it sounds very expensive. It sounds almost unobtainable. But if you define it, you get to control that narrative, and you decide, hey, I could actually achieve this if I don't compare myself to what already exists.
Exactly. And then putting the person or the people you're focusing on, putting them at the center, right? Because, and again, as designers, if we're creating products for people, we understand those people, right? And we live with them, we talk to them, we watch them, we study them. And if you approach it that way, and you break down or break away from the institution and you focus on the person, on the creative, you'll identify and you'll see that, hey, we don't need all this other stuff, because our consumers aren't even thinking about those things. Like, these are the top 3 things they're looking for, and how can we provide those top 3 things? And then that's a success, right? So I think just, again, putting your person or your group at the center of what you do, and then you're just making decisions primarily on them, for them, and not what your industry has been historically driving or pushing.
Exactly. Yep. Well, we have one more question and we'll kind of wrap this up.
Perfect.
And this question is, how do you know if a passion is worth pursuing? It often doesn't feel like enough of a justification on its own, especially when you aren't surrounded by people who understand it.
Right. Yeah, I'd say, like, again, like those naysayers are always going to be there. I think what really helps me draw energy for my passion and pursuing it is the other people that are really passionate about it, right? So that goes back to community, because there's an energy and there's a flow that you get into when you're working alongside other people that are really passionate about that too. So I would say build community, find the other people that are really passionate about it too, whether it's writing or glass blowing or arts and crafts. There's a group out there that are your kindred spirits who love to do exactly what you do. So partner with them, grow with them, and grow together. And then how do you know if it's the right thing? It's the right thing if someone else needs it, right? So what are you doing that someone else needs that you can provide for them?
Yep, absolutely. My growing up, my mom would always tell me this in Spanish, but the way that it translates in English actually sounds really nice. She would always say, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like you said, there's always going to be those naysayers. There's always even if you don't know them, there's always going to be resistance because people are uncomfortable with change.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
A lot of times those people exist in your own family, right? And those are the hardest voices to overcome, but it's really just, it's lack of education, right? We all have a different path and a different experience, and we don't know what we don't know. So I don't see it as, I don't see the naysayers as really a negative thing. It's just another person that I need to educate on this particular thing. And I think with understanding comes acceptance. And so we should really strive to help others understand our perspective or point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the cherry on top of this conversation. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. For those who are tuning in, thank you so much for joining us during this wonderful conversation on a Monday. Really great way to start your week. This will go live on YouTube later this week, and we hope we see you at our next Lens session. Cheresse, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Take care.
Bye-bye.